What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and it's time to continue on our Tales of the Valiant preview packet preview review thing. We're talking about the Kobold Press Tales of the Valiant preview packet that was released for free. It's available on Kobold Press's website. It's a 63-page document that contains a variety of things to give you an idea of what to expect from the 5e compatible system from Kobold Press. So we talked about the cleric in our last video. Let's talk about the fighter now. The fighter we have received in playtest packet 2, and there was also a design diary released that talked a little bit about it, so we'll flip between all of those things as needed. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing so. Let's go ahead and dive in. So here is the fighter. Again, a lot of the base stuff here is going to remain the same. Now the saves is Constitution and your choice of Strength or Dex. That's a little bit of a difference from base 5e. I don't recall if that was the case with the playtest. It was the case with the previous playtest. That's nice. Obviously, I'm going to probably choose Dex because Dex and Constitution saving throws, at least in base 5e, are two of the most common saving throws you're going to make. And let's go ahead and roll in. So Last Stand was the original ability we had received here in the base fighter playtest packet, which said when damage would take you down, reduce your HP to an amount less than half your hit point maximum, rounded down. You can use your reaction to expend one or more of your hit dice up to a number equal to your proficiency bonus. Immediately roll them. You regain hit points equal to the total sum rolled plus your con modifier, and that was once per long rest. Now, we know from the design diary that Celeste says here, Last Stand is powered up. The new feature that replaces 5e's Second Wind is no longer restricted to a once per rest use. You can now use it until you run out of hit dice. And if we go here, we can now see that when you take damage that would reduce your hit points to less than half your hit point maximum, you can use your reaction to expend one or more hit dice up to your proficiency bonus. Immediately roll those hit dice. You regain HP equal to the sum of all dice rolled plus your con modifier. I like this. This is a nice change. The restriction of limiting it to a number of times, making this limitation now being equal to the number of hit dice you have, I think is a good move. It was just one more thing to keep track of. And if this is truly going to replace Second Wind, as exists in the base 5e fighter, this makes it a little bit stronger. It also is nice because I've often said that hit dice is an interesting resource that just exists out there that a lot of things in 5e don't really tap into. So uses for hit dice as a currency to expend is a nice thing to see. All right, moving on, we also had martial action here, which was essentially our fighting style replacement, right? So previously in the playtest packet, you had the option for aim, guard, quick strike, and wind up. You choose one of them. Aim was when wielding, let's see, choose one of the following martial actions you know. Aim requires wielding a ranged weapon. As a bonus action, you take time to increase the effectiveness. When you use aim, select one target. You can see if you make a ranged weapon attack against that target before the end of your turn, you double your proficiency bonus for the first attack roll, which is a pretty powerful thing. It's essentially almost expertise on attacks, which is kind of cool. Guard requires you to use a shield. As a bonus action, you can intercept incoming attacks. When you use Guard, select one enemy creature within 5 feet of you. That target has disadvantage on the first attack roll it makes against you or an ally. This is kind of similar to what we see in base 5e. We have Quick Strike, which requires wielding of 2 weapons. As a bonus action, you can make a weapon attack with a light melee weapon you are holding. You add your ability modifier to the damage of this attack as you would normally with the weapon attack. If the light melee weapon has the thrown property, you can choose to throw it for this attack. This is essentially giving you 2-weapon fighting. And then it also goes on to say here, right in the original, is required. A 2-weapon fighter is required to use their action before they can use their bonus action. The intention of Quick Strike is to remove this dependency, meaning you could use your bonus action first before you use your main hand. And we also have Wind Up, which requires a 2-handed weapon or a versatile weapon with both hands. As a bonus action, you can take the time to increase the effectiveness of your next weapon attack. When you use Wind Up, select one target you can see within 5 feet of you. If you make a melee weapon attack against that target before the end of your turn, double your proficiency bonus for the first attack roll. So again, similar to what we saw for aim, this is for wielding of 2 weapons. Now, there was a design diary about this as well. It says martial action has an additional use. Now fighters can use a martial action to perform actions granted by weapon options as bonus actions. Keep your eye out for the weapon option mechanic in the alpha release shipping this summer. Sounds to me like weapon options is like the weapon mastery system that we're seeing coming from Wizards of the Coast. I don't know. Could be wrong. Or perhaps catch an early whiff of what's in store by checking out Tome of Heroes. This is the existing. This book does exist, and I do know what they're talking about by weapon option mechanics. I've seen this in. I think this was in the Midgard Player's Handbook as well, where basically certain weapons just had additional things you could do with them, which again is not an original concept created by WotC. A lot of people have done this, but we're seeing it used pretty heavily in the weapon mastery feature we see in the current 5e playtest. So for martial action, it says you take a bonus action on each of your turns in combat. This bonus action can only be used to perform a weapon option or one of the unique martial actions granted by this feature. Wait, you can take a bonus action on each of your turns in combat. Oh, okay. You can be used to perform a weapon option, which we don't know what those are yet, or use the unique martial actions. Choose one of the following features. You get more features as you get higher levels. Aim looks to be pretty much the same. Make a ranged weapon attack before the end. Yeah, that's the same. Guard is the same. Quick strike. Once per turn after you take the attack action, attack with a light weapon. Oh, wait a minute. Once per turn after you take the attack action and attack with a light melee weapon that you're holding in one hand, you can make an attack with a different light melee weapon that you're holding in the other hand. You don't add your ability modifier to the damage of this additional attack unless the modifier is negative. If the light melee weapon has the thrown property, so they changed that quite a bit. This whole thing we saw here, which was like we wanted to, as a bonus action, make a weapon attack with a light weapon you're holding. You add your ability modifier to the damage to this attack as you would with a normal weapon attack. This has basically been reverted to essentially just be base 5e. Right? Once per turn after you take the attack, so that concept of allowing you to do it first has been removed. Now you have to take the attack action first. You can make an attack with a different light melee weapon, and you don't add your ability modifier to this. So what's the benefit? I don't. There's some. I is two weapon fight. If two weapon fighting isn't a base option in Tales of the Valiant, then this makes sense. Otherwise, this just looks like a literal copy and paste of two weapon fighting. Yeah. Bonus action. Once per turn, we take the attack action and make attack with a light weapon you're holding in one hand. You can do it with a different melee weapon you're holding in your other hand. So you still have to make the attack first. You still have to use the offhand, and you don't add your ability modifier to this additional attack. The only thing it mentions the thrown property, but yeah, this is basically just okay. Whatever. I don't like that change personally. And wind up. Select one target within 5 feet. Yeah, this is basically the same. Okay. That's fine. Action Surge. Activate this feature to gain additional action on top of your regular action and possible bonus action. Complete a short or long rest. Action Surge here is the same. You would get your subclass ability here at 3rd and 7th level, the Discipline, and your improvement at 4th and 8th, and multi-attack at 5th. Let's see what we have here. Discipline, still at 3rd, improvement, multi-attack, yes. Okay, so all that remains the same. Now we move into the disciplines. Here we had the Spellblade, which is kind of like your Eldritch Knight. And then we also had the Weapon Master. Right, that was it. Okay. So that's what we had originally. That's what we're getting again. There is some design diary information here. Enchant Weapon has been empowered and clarified to address the following. You can enchant magic weapons and their bonuses stack. For example, if you use the Enchant Weapon on a +1 weapon, and the weapon's magical bonus +1 and the +1 bonus from Enchant Weapon means you have a cumulative +2. You can now summon the weapon to your hand. You can now effectively use thrown weapons. We shifted the wording around so you don't have to strictly hold the weapon for it to retain the benefits of its enchantment. This clarification eliminates the raw problem of using thrown weapons with a previous version of the feature. Okay, so some little bit of clarification there. So Spellblades had spellcasting and spell slots. That's fine. Enchant Weapon was spend an hour on interrupted contact. This is again very similar to the Eldritch Knight. You can imbue it with limited form of enchantment. When you hold it, your enchanted weapon functions as a +1 weapon. It ceases to be magical if it isn't on your person, but otherwise it follows the typical magic item rules. And whenever you gain a new talent, you can choose from the martial or magic talent list, basically allowing you to expand your feat pool. Okay. Spellblade gets the spellcasting. There it is. From that table above. Enchant Weapon. Okay. We talked about this. Let's see. And it's clarified as said. You have a +1 to attack and damage rolls made with this weapon. If this weapon would normally grant a magical bonus to attack, your enchantment bonus stacks. So that's clarified there. If it's on the same plane of existence as you, you can use a bonus action to summon the weapon. When you do so, the weapon instantly appears in your hand. Creatures who handle or inspect the enchanted weapon can tell it isn't a true magic item unless the weapon was magic to begin with. Okay. And then again, we have the expanded talent option. Now, again, we don't know about spell multi-attack, as the preview packet only goes up to level 5, whereas the previous one went up to level 7. So let's go ahead and check the design diary for our Weapon Master. Stunts have been simplified and streamlined in the following ways. You are no longer restricted by stunts known. You no longer have to pick which stunts you know. You can use any on the list provided you are wielding the required weapon. Stunts are no longer keyed to points. Stunts now use a more straightforward uses per rest system. Let's see what they're talking about. So here it said stunts known 3, stunts known 4. Choose 3 or simple or martial weapons with which you have proficiency. You've mastered those use of weapons. Once per turn, when you roll damage for an attack with a weapon you have mastered, you can reroll one of the weapon's damage dice. That's nice. And then stunts were basically what once were our Battle Master maneuvers. It says you gain a number of stunt points equal to your proficiency bonus +1 to perform a stunt. You can see that these all have 1 point, so like you could potentially scale them upwards. That has since been removed, it sounds like, and you would learn a certain number of stunts. Let's go ahead and see what we have here. Okay. Weapon Master, stunts known. Choose 3 types of simple or martial weapons. Once per turn, when you roll damage for an attack with a weapon you have mastered, you reroll the weapon's damage dice and use either result. Okay, that's the same. And then stunts. As part of your training, you have learned to perform remarkable feats of your weapons. You can access the special maneuvers called stunts, detailed below. To use a stunt, you must wield a weapon that matches the weapon type listed in the stunt description. You can only use 1 stunt per turn. You gain access to new stunt options at higher levels. All stunt options below are available to you at 3rd level. Okay, so there will be more coming. We just don't have them yet. You can perform a number of stunts equal. You can perform stunts a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus +1. After that, you need to finish a short or long rest to regain your full ability to perform stunts. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Proficiency bonus +1, number of stunts, get them back on a short or long rest, and you basically have access to all of these and can choose to use them as you see fit, right? And then they all have a kind of prerequisite. Arcing Strike requires a 2-handed weapon that deals slashing damage. When you successfully deal damage with a weapon attack, you deal half that damage to a different target. Cheap Shot is a melee weapon. When you successfully hit a target with a melee weapon attack as part of the action, you could immediately make an unarmed strike as part of the same attack action. Make it count. You can make a single attack with a +10 to the roll. Here's kind of where we see some of that cleric stuff from the last video get incorporated here into the fighter. You can't make additional attacks as part of that attack action, even if you have multi-attacks, so it's just limiting you to 1, but just to make sure guarantee you're going to hit. Parry. When a creature within 5 feet of you hits you with a weapon, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage by a d10 plus your proficiency bonus. Redirect. When you fail to hit a target with a weapon attack, you can use your reaction to immediately reroll the attack, but you must choose a different target within 5 feet. That's really powerful because it's good reaction use. Actually, because you have all of these are fantastic. The only thing is, this will be a little. I mean, we always hear people talk about how too many options can be a problem. Something to consider is that you need to kind of basically have these in your head. That was the difference between this and the Battle Master in 5e. You were limited to the number of options you had, so you knew you only need to memorize however many maneuvers you had. Here you now have all of these stunts and just need to know what they all do. Which I could see potentially slowing down a combat if people aren't familiar with all the options off the top of their head. Riposte, a melee weapon that doesn't have the heavy property. When a creature you can see within 5 feet of you misses you, you can use your reaction to make an attack against them. Run through, weapon that deals piercing damage. When you successfully deal damage with a weapon attack, you can deal half that damage to a target you can see within 5 feet of the original. And Shifting Strike, a weapon that deals slashing damage. When you successfully hit a creature with a weapon as part of the attack action, you can immediately move to a different unoccupied square within 5 feet of that target. So you're basically kind of just giving you a little battlefield maneuverability. So for this, I do like the changes I've seen. Like I said, I think the change to stunts being nice and simple, good move. We know we're going to get more stunts at higher levels, which potentially gives the Weapon Master quite a bit of versatility, especially because you now have access to all of these. You just have to choose how many you're going to be able to use. You're going to start at 3rd level with 3. And then again, that maximum, you'll end up with 7 total uses once you hit a proficiency bonus of 6. So that's a limited number of uses, but you do get them back on a short rest. So, potentially pretty useful for you there. And yeah, I kind of like that they simplified it down. And yeah, I think the fighter overall, the Spellblade, also a little bit nicer, kind of having the summon ability here. The Weapon Master also simplified. I like the changes we see to Last Stand. I like just the limitation being hit dice, which is nice and easy to remember. The only thing I really have an issue with is that change to Quick Strike is basically just base 5e2 weapon fighting, whereas we even had information previously about why they made certain changes to potentially make things more useful or get more play. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Tales of the Valiant Fighter preview in the comments down below, and I will see you all next time.